What's up, y'all? I am about to have a meeting, but I need to get ready. And I'm in my husband's bedroom or bathroom because the stepkids are here and they're still asleep. But I need to get ready, like I said. And I also need to do a wrap up of October and whatever it's so far in November. But the toilet needs to stop running first. Hold up. And then the other thing that I want to do today before it starts raining is I want to take you along with resetting my garden. So let me show you. I think it may have already started to rain a little bit, so I'm not going to step out from under the porch. I want to harvest all of that lemongrass that is still kind of green, not the frost damage. And I just want to have those basil flowers or whatever they're called at this point in a bouquet, or just sitting on my counter because they smell so good even now. And then I have a couple pots I need to empty out and kind of let you know what I'm planning to do with that. A little table that I moved from the side, and then show you a couple other things. But first I gotta get ready for my meeting. So let's talk about the first book and then I'll be back. So I am not sure how much I've already said, but this video is going to be a little different for stuff that I typically do. It's kind of vlog style. It's going to kind of be get ready with me. And right now I'm not using a microphone, so forgive me for any kind of echo you may hear. So I want to also, when I'm wrapping up the things that I've read between the 1st of October and probably like mid-November, because it's on the back end of November at this point. My stomach's growling. I also want to talk to y'all and just kind of throw it all into one video, just because I don't really feel like it needs to be separate. But I want to talk to y'all about a couple products that I've picked up recently. I like to talk about non-bookish stuff sometimes. Hold up, let me clean this lens. It doesn't need to be a separate video, and most of it will be in this portion while I'm getting ready. So the very first book that I want to talk about is, I'm going to go in chronological order too, as far as the books. So while I brush my teeth, I'm going to drop you a summary of Witchlings by Claribel Ortega. And I gave it 4 stars. A magical adventure for fans of Amari and the Night Brothers and Nevermore, about 3 witchlings who must work together to do the impossible if they have any hope of earning their full powers. Every year in the magical town of Ravenskill, witchlings who participate in the Black Moon ceremony are placed into covens and come into their powers as full-fledged witches. And 12-year-old Seven Salazar can't wait to be placed in the most powerful coven with her best friend. But on the night of the ceremony, in front of the entire town, Seven isn't placed in one of the 5 covens. She's a spare. Spare covens have fewer witches, are less powerful, and looked down on by everyone. Even worse, when Seven and the other 2 spares perform the magic circle to seal their coven and submit themselves as sisters, it doesn't work. They're stuck as witchlings and will never be able to perform powerful magic. Seven invokes her only option, the impossible task. The 3 sparrows will be assigned an impossible task. If they work together and succeed at it, their coven will be sealed and they'll gain their full powers. If they fail, well, the last coven to make the attempt ended up being turned into toads forever. But maybe friendship can be the most powerful magic of all. with action-packed adventure, a coven of quirky witchlings, Clarabelle A. Ortega's signature humor and girl power vibes, this middle grade Latin witch story is truly a modern classic. Teeth brushed. Then you got the summary. So let me tell you, I gave it 4 stars, which was rounded up from 3.5. And I really enjoyed it. I think it is middle grade. Let me double check. Yeah, it's middle grade fantasy, and it's there's a lot of magical realism in it. And I really enjoyed Ghost Squad when I read it the first time around. And so, you know, the difference between this one and Ghost Squad is I don't think that the main character in Ghost Squad knew about magic or anything of that nature prior to the events in the story, but this character does, as well as the people around her are acknowledging the existence of magic and its function in society or whatever. So I think that's pretty cool. I do like that about this. I've already washed my face with a cleanser earlier this morning because I was having a little bit of an issue with breakout, but I'm just gonna rinse it right now and dampen it up. But yeah, I would highly suggest, I would highly recommend this book if you like, especially if you liked Ghost Squad, if you also read The Honeys or Scout's Honor, or Ballad and Dagger, or because those, the ones I just mentioned, are more YA, but sometimes middle grade can be even more fun than YA. I don't know. Anyways, highly recommend this. If I don't move on, we'll be here forever. Just heads up, this is going to be a mixture of things I read for Blackoweenathon, things that I read for Black SFFathon, and for anything else that I threw in October. It's all gonna be in this wrap up, so I'm not really gonna, I'll let you know if I read it for a purpose, is what I mean to say. I read When the Reckoning Comes, and I gave it 4 stars, solidly 4 stars. I never did come back to my Goodreads and flesh out my review because I wanted to be more thoughtful, because there's a lot of topics and themes that are going on, and When the Reckoning Comes, that need a nuanced conversation, or not even need, but really deserves a nuanced conversation, because it did make me emotional. But before I go into that, I recently picked this up from Ulta because I had a coupon for my birthday. I'll get my face out. And I really like micellar water, and I like every other CeraVe product that I've ever tried, so I thought, why not? I didn't even know they had a micellar water, so that's what I just did on my face. And I'm gonna do a toner now. But yeah, so When the Reckoning Comes, to do a very basic summary, I'm not even gonna look at the Goodreads summary, just going off of memory. I read this, I finished reading it on the 6th of October, so bear with me on what recall. But it's about this group of friends, 3 in particular, 3 friends, 2 black, 1 white. The white one is a female, a male and a female. The male and the female, the other 2 male, female are black. And so what happens in this one is we're dropped into the story on a night where I think the main character's name, or the male main character's name is Jesse, I think, where he and Myra decide to go to this haunted plantation, and some things go down. And then we fast forward like 10 years after that event and all the things that happen as a result of that, or during that, where the white friend is getting married on that same plantation. And things go down 10 years later in the course of this wedding event. I forgot that character's name. You know, at first, when I first started out reading it, I was like, what have I gotten myself into? What is this about? Because one, it takes place on a plantation, and y'all know how I feel about slave things and things related to slavery. I'm just not a fan. But this is a horror book, so I was like, maybe. And so the main character, the black main character, Mira, she was raised by a black woman, a single black mother, who she basically raised her to feel like she was one of the good ones, and like not like the other black people even living next door in this small ass town. So there are a lot of things that come with thinking that way. And so all of her actions, Mira's actions, are influenced by this. By the way she was raised, obviously. I mean, that's anybody. She was making choices that I really was like, I can understand them because of how you were raised, but girl, you are really pissing me off. Like, what in the hell? Like, what is going on here? Do I feel like the ending was satisfying? Yes, but I would have liked for there to have been more blood in the end. And I think I might have liked for it to have happened sooner. So what I just put on my face is something I use every day. It's not something I recently bought though, so you may have heard me talk about this before, but my skin really likes it, and I can tell when I don't use it. So that's what I just put on my skin and on my face. And this is something that I just recently picked up in the same trip to Ulta's. I bought this. Is the matte Black Girl sunscreen. I have the regular moisturizing 30 SPF and it's fine, but when I was using it alone, it didn't feel greasy, but it definitely gives my skin a shine that I don't necessarily want in the wintertime, or maybe not even under makeup or anything. So I decided to give this a try because I was using the Super Goop Unseen sunscreen and it was good. I liked it, but I was not finna buy or spend $17 or $18 on a little travel size. It's probably about half this size as far as the ounceage. I was not finna spend $17 when I could have got it a full-size bottle for the same price. And this a little bit goes a long way, just like with the other one. So that's why we're trying this, and I've been liking it. I've been using it for about 2 weeks. That's the consistency. It's not very runny. It is kind of, but not too bad. And that's about as much as I use. Y'all let me know if you think I should be using more. But a little goes a long way with that too. So back to the book. I don't know if I already told y'all my rating. I gave it 4 stars. It was cool. It was cool. It was a horror story. Like I said, I wish that there had been more blood and it happened a little bit sooner. Oh, this right here, I don't know if you could even see it before I just pointed it out, but I had my next on taken out, and it feels good to have a little bit of pressure on the area. So that's what this is. So I got my sunscreen, I got my serum. Time for a moisturizer. I got this e.l.f., which e.l.f. products have been doing me right recently, except for that exfoliator I got. I also bought a CeraVe moisturizer that I've liked too. I kind of switch out between the two. This one I think imparts a little bit more moisture without any kind of shine, but y'all can see for yourself. It has a little pump and a squeezy tube, so I'm into it. Yeah, I think I've said what I need to say about When the Reckoning Comes. I will definitely read something else by Latanya McQueen. I hope that she does continue to write in the horror genre. And yeah, that's it for that one. And then next I read Harley Quinn, the animated series, volume 1, Eat, Bang, Kill tour by T. Franklin. T. Franklin also wrote Bingo Love, which I haven't read yet, but I probably will. I probably will. Okay, now that my face is moisturized, my lips look so dry, so let me go do something about that. Okay, did that. So Harley Quinn, gave that thing 5 stars. 5 stars. It was so good. I was texting Ashley and Bree like, girl, y'all need to read this. Like, I don't know what y'all doing. You haven't read it, and I'm standing by that. However many weeks later, I think everybody should read it. It was really fun. They had Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy as their superhero or anti-villain or whatever you call them roles, as well as their personal, they're not their persona, their real live selves and jobs, which I thought was so cool. I haven't read any comics with them as their real selves. Didn't know their real names, and there's quite a few other female characters in there that either I hadn't read in a comic yet before, or they were shown in a way that I hadn't seen them shown before. So I thought that was a great time, and I highly recommend you read it. Go ahead and get dressed before I do my hair so I don't have to mess it up. Okay. That was so much fun. And the next thing I read was Ashes of Gold. I think I included this for Black SFFathon, for the book that features rocks or gems, because there's onyx in there, if you didn't know. And y'all, I was so disappointed with Ashes of Gold. Just so incredibly disappointed. I gave it 3 stars. It just felt like a completely different book from Wings of Ebony. It started out with a prologue that was so out of left field from where we left off at the end of book 1. And I simply never recovered. I never recovered from that prologue. And that's the bottom line. I never recovered. And I don't even want to go into specifics of things that happened, because why at this point? Like, I was just so disappointed. And also, if I'm being honest with y'all, it made me a little afraid of trying something else by JL. I know she has that middle grade that just came out recently with that beautiful ass cover. I just don't know if I'm gonna give it a try. After Ashes of Gold, I read Batman, the Court of Owls saga. That was good. I gave it 5 stars. Yeah, I gave it 5 stars. It is about Batman and the Court of Owls and who they are in Gotham. I don't remember all the specifics of what went down enough to relay them to you. But it's not like I would need to reread that to continue on if they wrote another run of that particular saga. But yeah, it's Batman in Gotham City and Commissioner Gordon and everything that goes on in relation to Batman. It's so fascinating to me. Like, we got to learn a little bit more about is his name Alfred? I forget the butler's name, Lord. On a side note, in previous, at least one other video, I hauled a micellar water and a lotion and something else by this company. And I was in a beauty supply store just randomly the other day and I saw this. It is a detangling spray that's not like a co-wash or a mask or like claiming to be a refresher or anything like that. And I really like this company. It's a black-owned company, or at least it used to be when they first came out. I did not see their products. I was actually looking for their micellar water when I went to Ulta, because that's where I got the first bottle from, and I didn't see it, so I don't know. I have liked this. It's kind of a weird texture. It smells so good. It's rose and hemp. It doesn't really smell like either. It smells kind of fruity, to be honest. But I have been just spraying that and mostly concentrating on my ends when I've been wearing my hair loose like this. And then I got a new bottle of Emeray's hair oil in her updated bottle with the dropper. And I haven't used this much already. Like, I just got this maybe last week. I haven't used this much already, but I transferred some of it into the OG bottle because it's a little bit easier to oil my husband's braids with the nozzle bottle, as opposed to this dropper, because like bringing it out of the bottle and over to his hair, I was making a mess. So shout out to Emeray for the innovations. I like the dropper bottle for my hair, but for his, that other like squeezy bottle works better. And so I just put a little bit in my palm. I can't really even show you this oil. And concentrate it on my ends. Can't really tell. My hair is just, it feels a little damp. And I'm just gonna mostly detangle my ends. So yeah, that was Batman Court of Owl Saga. 5 stars, highly recommend it. Even if you're not a Batman fan, I would recommend picking that up. Next thing I read was Ace. The next thing I read was Ace of Spades. I gave it 3 stars because I guess I was entertained. I don't know. The cover's beautiful. I pre-ordered it. It was basically, if I remember what the synopsis said, not talking about the comps. The comps, no. But the synopsis, I think, was pretty spot on, if I remember correctly. It's just like, what is all this trauma? Why do we need so much trauma in our YA books? Also, why did that book need to be set in the US? Why was it set in such a small, obscure town if you comped it to Gossip Girl? Like, what is that? Why? I have questions. Why did you do that? And where did the Get Out comp come from? I'm gonna play the Jeopardy music while I ponder that and detangle my hair. I have no idea why that shit was set in the US or a small town. It didn't make sense. It needed to have been it needed to have been in a bigger town for it to make sense. No, it needed to be much more elite, or in an area that we know, we being the audience that you're advertising this book to, which you're referencing American TV shows and American movies, so I assume you're marketing this towards American youth. Why? It should have been in a town that, or in a state I should say, that it's clear that it's not that many black people living there, so it wouldn't throw up any kind of weird vibes that there's only 2 black people, period, besides a cafeteria worker, I think, in that whole school. In that whole school. Like, that was a red flag off top. You can't tell me otherwise. And then once you start breaking into the fact that they're the only 2 black students at this school in this small town, it doesn't make sense that this school isn't known for doing what they do. And so once you jump off that porch, the rest of the book sort of falls apart for me. But I was entertained. 3 stars.
What a difference does the ponytail position and some hoop earrings make? So right after I finished doing my hair, my battery on my camera started to blink and I didn't want to get cut off, and I don't have a backup, so we're using StreamYard for a portion of this video. It's kind of cool because now I can show you my screen as we go. So the last one I talked about before the battery situation was Ace of Spades. I think I was able to say everything I wanted to say about it. Except that I probably will not read another book in the same genre by this author. I'm just not interested. I'm just not interested. I don't trust her now. Moving on. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, Volume 1. It was really, really cute. I forget the main character's name, but they started calling her Moon Girl. It was so cute. I gave it 4 stars, as you can see. It's in the Marvel franchise, and it's just cute. I never even heard of Moon Girl before. Randomly finding this on Hoopla, and it was a good time. I would recommend reading it. I don't think it's adult, but I think kids would. I don't think it's in the adult genre, but I think kids would enjoy it too. I wish it was. I do wish there was a little bit more to it than what it was, but I had a good time nonetheless. Nana by Brandon Massey was something that I read for Blackoweenathon this year. It was one that Bree from the Lock Petition really liked. I thought it was okay. I thought that it dragged a little bit in parts. The thing that bothered me about it, as what I already said in my review, was it's set in Georgia, I believe, and it did not make sense to me. There was 2 things that didn't line up in the beginning that made me not enjoy it as much as I wish I had. There was the fact that because it's set in the South, there are certain things about the culture of being in the South that you can expect, I feel like. And even though the main character, Monica, I think her name was, never knew her birth mother, she did have a loving, healthy, I think, relationship with her adoptive parent, who has passed away, or she dies in the very beginning of the book. They have a good relationship. She knew that her adopted parent did not like her biological mother, and that her adoptive parent knew her biological mother. So to me, it didn't make sense that Monica and that was so accepting of this woman who claims to be her mother on the day of her adoptive parents' funeral. Just accepted her, just like, okay, come on in, and let her stay in the house and started calling shots immediately. Kicked her husband out of their marital bedroom. Let it happen. Yes, she was being influenced by things. It just doesn't make sense to me for that to happen so quickly based on the way that Grace presented herself. And they were eating this stranger's food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks too. Like they were eating this woman's food immediately after having just been introduced to her. And I understand that that's going to happen to an extent when you're like right after a funeral, people are going to bring you food that you may not necessarily know them that well. But at the same time, this woman was in their home cooking. And I just can't put myself in Monica's shoes, even though I can't relate in that sense. Like I know my mother, I know my birth mother and my birth father. And so I can't fully understand her mindset in that way. Um, but I can't imagine somebody who has never known their biological parent grieving I just couldn't especially at the time of reading this, grieving their adoptive parent who they like and love and respect, knowing that they don't like their biological parent who just showed up, and it just didn't jive for me. Um, and I felt like the characters outside of Monica who was doing the grieving, because grief does do things to you. So I understand that. But the other characters were acting kind of, I think they were making weird decisions. I think they were acting more appropriately than Monica, but they made weird decisions that I just couldn't really get jiggy with. But I was entertained. Don't get me wrong. Like horny grandma Grace, she was doing some work. I'm not gonna say the Lord's work, but she was doing some work. Okay, she had a system. She was doing her thing, and it was effective. I was entertained. I would have liked this better if it had been like a novella length and it had only been from the grandma or Grace's perspective. Like if it had been much shorter and we weren't omniscient and seeing everything that was going on, and we only saw Grace's point of view and the things that she was doing through her lens, I would have liked this better. But I gave it 3 stars, which is not a bad rating. Sorrowland, I read next. I read it for Black SFFathon, for the prompt that was genre bending. That's what it was. I wanted to read this for the genre blending or bending prompt. 4 stars. I really enjoy Rivers Solomon's work just overall. This one is hard to summarize, and I don't want to try to summarize it because I might accidentally spoil something for you. It says, Byrne, 7 months pregnant and desperate to escape the strict religious compound where she was raised, flees for the shelter of the woods. There she gives birth to twins and plans to raise them far from the influence of the outside world. But even in the forest, Byrne is a hunted woman. Forced to fight back against a community that refuses to let her go, she unleashes incredible brutality far beyond what a person should be capable of, her body wrecked by inexplicable and uncanny changes. To understand her metamorphosis and to protect her small family, Fern has to face the past and, more troublingly, the future outside the woods. Finding the truth will mean uncovering not only the secrets of the compound she fled, but also the violent history of America that produced it. That is a pretty good summary of what this book is about, if I must say so. As well as there being other things involved, and I just don't want to say anything more, but I love the way Rivers lets a story unfold. I like the way that they develop characters. Like Fern was a very unique character that I've never quite encountered anyone like her, except for maybe Sully in Blood is Another Word for Hunger, which is another one of Rivers' works. in their stubbornness, they're very similar in their stubbornness, I would say, and the will to, or the want or drive to do something bigger than what their present environment is allowing for, and making that change at any cost. I really think those two characters have a lot in common in that way. And I like the way that this book ended, because it felt a little bit more satisfying than The Unkindness of Ghosts, which is another book by Rivers. I enjoyed it. I would highly recommend this, but content warning for religious oppression, cult behavior, not occult, but cult like behavior, body horror, and I forget what else, but look up the content warnings. Just and be safe going into that one. Also, the next one, Call Baby by Morgan Jerkins. I don't think I read it for any specific readathon. Maybe I did. I don't really remember, to be honest. But I enjoyed that. It's a debut novel by Morgan Jerkins, and y'all, this one for sure go into it be careful when you go into it, because it's huge content warning for miscarriage. I'm so sorry. For miscarriage. There are several miscarriages that happen on and off page by more than one person. So just be mindful of that. And basically, Call Baby is, now I don't really think I can spoil anything as far as trying to summarize it, but it is about legacy. It is about survival. It is about forging your own path. It is about community. It is about gentrification in a way. It is about motherhood, I would say. It is about a lot of different things. And I really enjoyed it. What genre would I say? So another one that's kind of genre blendy, I would say. It says magical realism, fantasy, literary fiction, and I can agree. It's an adult book for sure. It's not YA in any. I don't know. I liked it. It's there's some trauma and generational trauma involved. I would tread carefully. I don't know that it's for everybody, but it's interesting. It has some very interesting topics. So for now, I'm going to end this segment, this little portion with the StreamYard, because I need to go back to work and I want to get out into the garden before it starts to rain, like I may have said earlier in my intro. Pick back up in a bit with the rest of what I've read so far. I'm almost done.
You're gonna hear my stepchildren in the background a little bit, but that's all good. Let's wrap this up. So what I'm gonna do right now is let you see me pruning that lemongrass and the basil plant like I said in the intro, while I talk about the last few books that I have left to talk about. So next is Saga Volume 2. I finished reading this on the 31st of October. I gave it 4 stars. Really liked it. I'm really invested in the series at this point. I've made it to volume 4 by the time I'm recording this video, and I do absolutely plan to continue. And then next I read Cemetery Boys, which was part of my Latina Heritage Month celebration. I had it on my TBR, or in my TBR video for my plans for October. I forgot to show y'all this beautiful inside cover under the dust jacket. Just like, please, it's beautiful. So this is the story of Yadriel, who is a trans boy who wants his family to recognize him as a brujo, and his mother has recently passed away when we start this story, and his father just simply will not recognize. I mean, his father will use proper pronouns for the most part, even though Yadriel has to correct people in his family from time to time, but his father simply will not see him as a boy and able to do the boy bruja responsibilities and tasks. So, but his mother, before she passed away, did believe and did see and did want Yadriel to get brujo status. Anyway, so in the course of this book, we meet his friend. What's his friend's name? Maritza? Yeah. Maritza is her name. I read this, Hybrid read this. I read it with the audiobook that I borrowed from Hoopla and with my physical copy. So I forget some of the characters' names. In the course of Yadriel trying to prove his brujo status, he summons a recently deceased spirit by the name of Julian, and let's protect Jules at all costs. Like, he is just, oh my god. Scorpio energy through and through, and I love it in this character, in this book. And so Jules comes on the scene, and we have to figure out how he died, where his body is, along with another recently deceased, not another, but well, yeah, another recently deceased young boy who is a fellow brujo. They can't find his body and his spirit either. So in all of that, there is a little bit of an adventure, a bit of a coming of age situation in here for Maritza too, and I just had a great time with this book. Next, I read A Man and His Cat, Volume 1. I borrowed this from the library. I was kind of unofficially participating in the 30 and 30 manga challenge that Shay Geeks Out, Happy for Now, and I forget her name, Ashley from Bookish Realm and Bree from Lock Booktition are participating in and co-hosting. Anyway, so I picked this up on one of their sprints, and I had a great time with it. I gave it 4 stars, and I do want to continue in the series. Basically, this is a story about a man who goes and adopts a cat, I believe after his wife passes away, and he's just lonely and wants a companion, and he gets this cat, and the cat is one that's been in the shelter for a while, and is very happy to have been adopted, and how they get on as roommates, basically. And so it's very wholesome and sweet, and I do recommend that one. Then next I read Saga Volume 3. I don't think I told you guys what this series is about, but long story made short, there's two there's a main couple, Marco and Elena, or Alana, I'm not sure which way to pronounce it. They are from different planets. These planets have been at war for a while, and Marco was like a prisoner of war, I want to say, and Alana has been assigned to basically be a CO for the block, and they fall in love, and Alana gets pregnant, and they run away together with this as a fugitive couple, and with this essentially illegal baby, because they're not supposed, for one, they're not supposed to be sleeping together, like because their species hate each other, and for two, Marco killed some people, as well as Elena trying to get Marco away. Like, some shit has popped off, and so it's the story of them running away. and people who are trying to find them, and a lot of political intrigue. Like, I really haven't even got into the depths of what this is about, because if you've ever read anything by Brian K. Vaughan, you know that he plays with time jumps, and sometimes things aren't super clear in the beginning of the series, and I feel like that's true here, and I just don't know what I don't know yet, but I'm having a good time. I'm continuing. The next thing I read that I finished on the 10th of November is The Plot is Murder. It's book number 1 in the Mystery Bookshop series. It is a cozy mystery by V.M. Burns. I rated it 3.5 and rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. The main issue I had was that V.M. Burns is a Black author, and that was part of the reason why I decided to pick up this cozy, because I'm looking for more by Black authors. And the character, the way she is described, the main character, whose name is Samantha Washington, is the main character's name. She's very generic, and by generic I mean her race is ambiguous. And while that's fine for the most part, when I pick up a book by a Black author, for better or for worse, whether I'm right or wrong for this, it is what it is. I'm looking for the characters in that book, and though I didn't necessarily anticipate anybody being Black in the book, because there's no picture of characters on the cover, it's just a picture of the main character's 2 poodles. The main character, Samantha, was just so freaking generic that this story could have taken place anywhere, this plot could have taken place anywhere, and anybody could have written it. Like, it was boiled down so much and so bland in that regard that it took away from my enjoyment, because you could kind of tell that there was some tiptoe and ballet dancing going around, and making her so generic, just it washed out the story. I won't even say whitewash, because that wasn't implied either. You can kind of sort of make an argument for, at the very least, people in Samantha's family being Black if you read between the lines and squint real hard, but again, I don't want to have to do all of that when I'm reading a book. So I mean, otherwise it was okay. I did like the grandmother and her group of friends from the retirement village. They were fun. They were a great little ghost squad, but I did laugh out loud a couple times on that one. But everything else about the story was really generic, and it was okay. I mean, I still gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I could have rounded down, and I didn't. But I'm just not sure if I will continue in the series, because unless somebody else has read it and can let me know if it gets more specific, I'm just not looking for that. I want to know who I'm reading about. Moving along. And the next thing I read was, or next thing I finished, was Hoodoo by Ronald L. Smith. I didn't write a review for this, but this is a middle grade about a little boy named Hoodoo, if you didn't know, and his little, oh, that's right. So what happens in Hoodoo is tasked with, he kind of comes into his magic, into working roots, and also he has to figure out what happens, not figure out, but he learns what happens, what truly happens behind his father's death, and has to resolve that, basically the sins of the father, in order to have a peaceful life going forward. And I enjoyed it. It was very entertaining. The only thing that took away from my enjoyment and kept it from being a 5-star book was the fact that Ronald Smith kept having, he gave Hoodoo a sort of like a catchphrase, sort of. It was, if you didn't know. So he would explain something like, give the definition of humility, or explain a phrase or colloquialism, and then at the end of it he would say, if you didn't know. And this it makes sense in the beginning of the book to sort of set up the way a story is being told, but that continued all throughout the book to the very end. And it never felt like Ronald trusted the reader to draw from context clues. At the very same time, y'all, I am obviously not a middle grader. I am infinity middle graders years old, and so this book was not written for me. Kids probably would like that little catchphrase or being drawn to what the author is trying to get you to understand. But for me as an adult, it did take me out of the story, because it was like you're literally using the word to define the word, or using the phrase to define the phrase. Like, we can pick up on what you mean. You don't have to put that, if you didn't know, in there. So take my 1-star deduction with a grain of salt, y'all, because again, this is a middle grade book. And the main character is 12. I think I want to end it there because of things that I have left. There's only 2 things I have left, but I just finished those this week, and I want to wrap up everything from the rest of November through the end of December in a later video. I thank y'all for watching. Hit the like button if you feel like it. Wear your sunscreen even in the winter and snow months, and we see you next video. Bye, y'all. So, and you can't tell I'm taking my pants off, can you?